Hello, I'm Tim Hall, and welcome to the final lesson of our Huntsville. During the last 17 lessons, we've learned a lot about our community. In today's lesson, we want to take a brief look back at what we've learned. In Lesson 1, Huntsville's Early Beginnings, we found out the natural resources attracted Native Americans and settlers to the area of Huntsville. John Hunt was one of the first settlers in the area.
The name's John Hunt. I settled by the Big Spring in 1805. I found it to be the perfect place to build a log cabin for my family.
Our city of Huntsville is named after John Hunt. Lesson 2 covered the founding of Huntsville. We learned how hard-working families lived in the community around Big Spring. Each family member had chores to do. Leroy Pope purchased the land that the squatters had settled.
My name's Leroy Pope. I bought the land around the Big Spring in 1809 at public land auction. I gave Huntsville its first name, Twickenham.
Lesson 3, a visit to the town square, told us how the courthouse square was the center of business and activity. Many of the streets around the square were named for former presidents or Revolutionary War heroes. Lesson 4 was called Alabama Becomes a State. The community of Huntsville grew. So many people moved here that President Monroe designated the area as a territory. A constitution was written. On December 14, 1819, President Monroe signed a resolution that officially welcomed Alabama into the United States of America, and that's how Alabama became a state. Its temporary capital was Huntsville. In Lesson 5, we learned about the land of cotton. Cotton was and is important to Huntsville. Mills were built, creating more jobs and income for people in the area. Cotton helped the city to prosper. In Lesson 6, we learned how utilities make our lives easier. Utilities helped the city to progress and made life easier. Water pipes were made of cedar logs.
My name is Thomas Fern. In 1836, my brother and I gained control of the waterworks system that Leroy Pope had begun. Using the Big Spring for a water source, I designed cedar logs to carry fresh water to the citizens in our town.
Gas lights lined the streets. Electricity was created for the city in 1887. Lesson 7 showed us how we moved from horses to horsepower. Travel over the wooded mountains and down the muddy waterways was difficult for the early settlers. Better methods of transportation were needed. Steamboats were one method of improved transportation. Huntsville had the first streetcar system in the state of Alabama. Huntsville started operating its own airport in 1941. Today, we have many highways and interstates in addition to modern air travel. In Lesson 8, we talked about the price of education. Schools became important to the people of Huntsville. First, there were private schools, and later public schools and colleges formed.
My name is William Hooper Council. I was born in 1848. My brother and my mom and I were sold as slaves. I was later responsible for starting Alabama A&M University.
Different schools were created for blacks and whites. This changed in the 1960s when schools were no longer segregated. Education is still important to Huntsville today. Lesson 9 discovered landmarks of Huntsville. The settlers brought their different religions to the area and built places of worship. Twickenham Historic District includes many antebellum homes. Some of the oldest cemeteries in the state are located in Huntsville. In Lesson 10, we studied about the Civil War, the war between the states. The Civil War began in 1861, splitting the Union into two enemies. The southern section of the U.S. was rich farmland that used slave labor to produce cotton. Union troops captured the Huntsville Railroad Depot and occupied Huntsville. Lesson 11, After the War or Reconstruction. The time after the Civil War is called Reconstruction. Huntsville citizens worked together to rebuild and reorganize the community. Prosperity returned during the final decade of the 1800s. A memorable event during this time was a party given by Samuel Moore in honor of his champion butter-producing cow, Lily Flagg. Lesson 12, we talked about the civil rights movement in Huntsville. Although slavery was illegal, black people did not have the same rights as white people. Blacks were not allowed to attend the same schools, eat at the same restaurants, or use the same public facilities as white people. These inequalities led to the civil rights movement. Peaceful demonstrations in Huntsville led to changes in the law. In Lesson 13, we explored new frontiers. Huntsville's Redstone Arsenal has been the home of the American rocket program since 1949. Dr. Werner von Braun and a team of German scientists were important in the development of new rockets that carried man to the moon.
4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff. 32.
One small step for man. One giant leap for mankind.
NASA continues to explore space using satellites, telescopes, and missions manned by astronauts. In Lesson 14, we talked about recreational resources. Natural resources are important in creating parks. Huntsville has city, state, and national parks within its community. These parks are designed for family activities and are maintained by park and recreation employees. As we visit and enjoy these, remember it is our duty to help preserve and maintain them. In Lesson 15, we took a look at area attractions. Several area attractions and museums maintain the culture and history of Huntsville. Some of the best historical, botanical, and technological museums are located here. Visitors to these attractions can step back in time and relive pioneer and colonial life. You can enjoy the beauty of nature and artwork, or see the scientific and technological advances made in space exploration.
My name is Rachel Simmons. I'm a child of the new millennium living right here in Huntsville, Alabama. I have so many opportunities to enjoy as I grow up. I can enjoy my free time playing at Kids Space, watching the Huntsville Stars play baseball, or visiting wonderful museums such as Early Works in the Space and Rocket Center. I can grow up to be anything I'd like to be, a doctor, an engineer, or even a rocket scientist. I like this place, Huntsville, Alabama.
Lesson 16 took us to businesses and industries of Huntsville. Industry and technology have blended to create a busy commerce center in Huntsville. The economy and growth of our city is based on retail businesses, restaurants, health facilities, construction, computers, technology, and communication. And in Lesson 17, we talked about our municipal government. The city government consists of a mayor and city council who are elected by the citizens of Huntsville. Their jobs are to budget city taxes, to create laws, and to keep the citizens safe and prosperous. Fire and police departments within the city government protect citizens and their property. So that's our Huntsville. We hope you've learned a lot about how we got our start, how we got where we are today, and a lot about the place that we call home. For our Huntsville, I'm Tim Hall.